Hey moms, it's Nakimi. Welcome to the channel and space for single moms navigating motherhood. And as always, we do not bash the baby daddies because, well, we are here now. If you are new to the channel, welcome. We discuss all things pertaining to single motherhood, and I am a huge advocate of mental health for single moms. So if you are a single mommy looking for a community, please subscribe. Do not forget to hit the like button and leave me a comment at the end of the video. Okay, so mommies, I want to pose a question to you guys today. This topic comes with a lot of controversy, and that is, do you think it is beneficial for mothers to be stay-at-home moms? Yeah. So I know that in today's society, really, there's never been a time in history, has it ever really been wise to solely depend on a man to be the provider? Especially with divorce rates and things of that nature. And you see more women sharing their testimony that were stay-at-home moms. You know, the marriage has now failed and they have no source of income, no skill set, no experience in the workforce. So they're kind of SOL. And that's a risk that we take, right? But I want to take a different approach and look at it from the perspective of what is in the best interest of the babies and what is in the best interest of the mom's mental health. You know, with newborns, when we first become moms, we're nervous. You know, we're all over the place. It's our first time. We're trying to learn how to do this mommy thing. You know, sometimes we're up in the middle of the night just checking to see if they're still breathing. We're worrying about all types of illnesses that can come about. We just want to make sure that we are doing our job as mommies, and we're often striving to be a perfect mother. Yeah. So it can be pretty intense. And then if you're already in the workforce and you decide to start a family, maternity leave on average is anywhere from 6 weeks to 3 months before you have to return back to work. And I'm sorry, in my opinion, that's just not enough time to bond with your babies, let alone get yourself together, physically heal, get back to feeling like yourself mentally, being emotionally stable. Yeah. And when we send our kids away to like the babysitters or daycare, we oftentimes develop separation anxiety. And so does the baby, And so I think that by being a stay-at-home mom, it kind of allows you to calm your nervous system, get structured, kind of get the mommy thing down, really pour into your children and yourself as well. Because raising kids is a full-time job. So if you're going back to work, working a full-time job, well, now you have 2 full-time jobs. And then I think we need to ask ourselves, if we're separated from our babies because we're going back to work for, 9+ hours in a day, how much time are we really spending with our kids? Are we establishing relationships with them, the trust, fostering environments that are safe? Yeah. And people will say, well, children need structure and socialization. Yes, they do. But that's why you have your local communities, that have all types of programs through the library and mom groups and stuff for play dates. Yeah. And in all honesty, guys, when I was growing up, you guys tell me if you saw this, but to me, the kids that kind of excelled academically and they were well-mannered were the ones that had their mothers were stay-at-home moms. I would see them drop them off to school. They packed their lunches. They were intentional with the lunches that they packed. They were in the carpool picking them up. They volunteered at the school. Like, they were thoroughly involved. And now I'm not saying that you cannot do, all of that and still have your 9 to 5. Of course you can, right? You can still be a badass mommy and a boss babe. For sure you can, right? But oftentimes that takes a toll. And it also usually involves the mom having to rely heavily on a village to help with the day-to-day, outside of your husband, even if you're married. Yeah. So that's why I'm asking, is it also in the best interest? What is in the best interest of the mom's mental health? Because when you go to work, now you got to deal with the workplace drama. You got to deal with your KPIs, hitting your targets, whatever line of work you're in, you've got to be able to excel at your job. And when you get home, you're tired, and if, depending on what age stage your baby's in, whether it's newborn or infant, they're probably going to sleep. So you really haven't had enough time to really just sit with your baby. You know what I mean? And then so many moms miss milestones like that. You know what I'm saying? Just being away all the time. I don't know. You guys let me know. And daycare is expensive as heck. Is it on average $1,100 a month? And more mothers are coming on, to social media sharing their stories. And they're like, listen, they feel like a bulk of their monthly income is going towards childcare. So essentially, they feel like, they're going to work just to pay for someone to watch their children. That's wild. You know what I mean? But it's a reality. And then when the pandemic hit, and a lot of people were able to work from home, well, they got a taste of work-life balance. Yeah. That's why there was so much pushback and going back into the office was met with derision because, they're like, listen, we could still do the job, but they were able to start getting dinner prepared early throughout the day. They were able to stop real quick and go pick up the kids. They didn't have to fight through traffic. They were not in, overstimulated environments where the toxic, coworkers, And so I think that that's something that we really have to think about. What do you guys think? Have we gotten so far away from nurturing our children and establishing those relationships? Because as I said in other videos, you can't be your child's little friend, but you do have to have some type of relationship that is built on trust, right? Like you want your babies to come to you before they trust the world, and in these daycares and stuff and schools, they're learning all the wrong things from the wrong people. And we can't control how other people raise their children, right? Especially in a public school setting. But even in a private school setting, all children don't go untouched. You know what I mean? Not everyone goes unscathed. You know what I mean? So I just think that it allows the mom to kind of calm down, relax, and really, fall in love with being a mommy and getting to know your baby, what type of foods they like, being able to introduce them to new foods. And again, you can do all of this while you still work, but your time is going to be cut short. You can get so much more done and so much more accomplished, in my opinion, if you are a stay-at-home mom, and in today's society, there's still ways to get you a small bag if that's what you're worried about. But I don't know, that would be a conversation that you would need to have with yourself and with your significant other on, what would your life look like once you guys start to have a family. But I think that, it's so messed up because it would be nice for, the husband and the wife to really be intentional with their kids before they have them. You know what I mean? And really be locked in as a family. Wouldn't that be perfect? But it's not, picture perfect. So I get it, right? But I don't know, you guys let me know. That's just my opinion in short. Of course, there's no right or wrong way to parent. There's no parenting manual out there. But I do think that I would like to start to see more moms be stay-at-home moms. Pushing the stroller through the park, play dates, really, softening yourself and living a soft life. And I'm not talking about from a worldly perspective of Louis Vuitton and, having the expensive strollers and things like that. But I'm talking about being intentional with your babies and being intentional with yourself. And, when you're mentally fit and you're physically fit, you're able to pour back into your children because your cup runneth over. You know what I mean? When you're loved properly and you kind of feel like you've got control a little bit and you have your routine down, to me, you just perform better, right? Like even at your job, when you have the right resources, when you've got the right amount of rest and you've had the right amount of training and it's not such a stressful environment, and you kind of have the latitude for creativity and to kind of do things your way, you typically perform better when when the company values you as an employee, right? So I think the same thing with motherhood. But I don't know, you guys let me know. What do you think? To my single mommies, you got this, mamas. I love you guys. Till next time. Bye.